Welcome to Hotter Than Ever, where we uncover the unconscious rules we've been following, we break those rules, and we find a new path to being freer, happier, sexier, and more satisfied in the second half of our lives. Oh my God, you guys. Where have I been? I dropped off the face of the earth for a few months there. My last episode was in the middle of June. That is 3 months off, and you are still here. Thank you. Thank you for being here and coming back to this conversation after my unexcused and totally unexplained absence. Were you wondering what happened to me? Some of you probably were, and others were probably like, oh, were you gone? Now that you mention it, that kind of registers with me. You know, here's what I have to say. It is so uncharacteristic of me to just stop doing something without making a plan or having an explanation, especially if it's something like this podcast that I've been doing really consistently for quite some time. But what is characteristic of me is that I am either on or I'm off. And I fight against a very black and white way of thinking about things and doing things. And for the last couple of months, I needed to stop down and start a new chapter of my life. And in that transition between one and the other, I could not wrap my head around finding the space, literal space and time, and also the mental space and time to do the podcast with the same rigor and consistency that I had been doing it with for almost 2 years, while also needing to accomplish the things I needed to accomplish this summer, which were as follows. Those of you who have gone through a divorce or have been laid off or have had some kind of reversal in your life, which is probably all of us, everyone's had some kind of thing where they had to zig, where they had been zagging. I had a giant life transition, and there were financial repercussions to the decisions that I have been making about what I want to do with my life in this next chapter. The long and the short of it was that I needed to sell my house, which had been the culmination of a lifetime of a certain kind of striving. It was a beautiful mid-century house. It was in a beautiful neighborhood on a fancy street with a bunch of other houses that were always being renovated or upgraded or improved or torn down for more McMansions. It's a house that I bought in the middle of the pandemic at a time that I did not know, but I know now would be the tail end of my last big corporate job. When I bought it, I was very flush with cash. My company had gone public. I was eager to sell some of my stock and put it into a different investment. And at that time, I was still married, and we found this beautiful house. And I thought, oh my God, I have done it. I have done it. I pulled it off. I accomplished it. I can't believe it. I was always running the math on home buying and real estate costs. And for years and years and years, I was like, how do you even do this? Houses are so expensive. How am I ever going to do that in one of the most expensive cities in America? With my theater degree from Oberlin College, with my liberal arts background, I did not think that I would be able to reach this milestone of the American dream. This home ownership, this mythic level of like belonging and adulthood. I didn't think I could do it, but we had a little bit of savings, and I made a lot of money in my last job, and I put a lot of those resources towards buying a house, and I did it. We did it, but I did it. And good for me. And then fast forward to several years later, my life in the spring of 2025 looked very, very different than it did in the moment when I bought the house at the peak of my miserable marriage and my too intense job and my keeping up with the Joneses life. And in the spring of this year, I was running low on money. And as you know, I have been following my bliss and investing in myself and in this career transition and in this pivot to becoming a more fully self-expressed and realized version of myself. But it's been expensive. Real talk, I have shared the intimate details of my life with you, of this transition that more and more of us are going through. And what I realized was, in order to keep this newfound joy, authenticity, and agency, I was going to need to sell the house. Selling the house was the thing I would say to myself right after I got laid off. I'm so not willing to go back to corporate life. I'd even sell the house if I had to avoid that. And while I did believe it when I said that to myself, when I made that declaration of independence and commitment to myself and my own agency and stepping out of a conventional corporate path that I had been on, I did believe it, but it was theoretical. And I didn't know if it would come to that. And it came to that. And honestly, full disclosure, when you get divorced in California, you owe your ex 50% of your assets. So we had been horse trading child support for house equity, and I still owed my ex a chunk of money. And this was my last financial tie to him, other than my living, breathing children. And the house really came to represent a life that no longer served me, and actually a life that I was no longer living, but I was still paying for. And I don't know if you remember this, but Donald Trump, I know, got elected, in January of this year. And the markets have been crazy. And I really did not know what would fucking happen, whether I would even be able to sell this house when I wanted to. Long story short, and call me if you want more details, I spent a month getting the house ready, getting it painted, doing repairs. We took gorgeous photographs. We listed it privately, and we got no bites. And I was like, ooh, I hope that doesn't mean we won't be able to sell it. We listed it publicly, and we did 1 day of showings. We showed the house to 2 families. Those were the only people that expressed interest in this house that was priced right, in the right neighborhood. Anyway, one of those families made an offer the next day. And we accepted the day after that. And within 3 days, I was in escrow. And oh my God, within 6 weeks, we were closed and I had to move. So managing all of that with my kids home from school for the summer and needing to be driven everywhere, and actually like being in my business when I'm normally home during the day with my time to myself, now I needed to drive them wherever they needed to be, help them have a good summer, look for a new place to live, get us packed, get us moved, get us unpacked, and get settled before school started. The Los Angeles Unified School District starts in the middle of August. So my time frame was super compressed, and I could not wrap my head around how I was going to do the Hotter Than Ever podcast and accomplish all of this at the same time. And so, I put the podcast on hold. I didn't tell you I was doing that, but I put it on hold until I could reclaim the bandwidth to do it. And I did it. I sold the house. I found an amazing new place to live that's a rental in a cool new neighborhood that is way less pretentious than where I used to live and feels much better for me and where I am today. I made the money. I paid my ex off. I modeled life change for my kids. I modeled an empowered transition for my kids. I made a list of everything I wanted in our new home, and I shared that vision with the kids. And my daughter and I went and looked at a dozen rentals within a week, and we found an incredible new place that checked almost everything off that list. And I don't own this house, and I don't care that I don't own it. Honestly, it's a fucking relief to not be responsible for insurance and repairs and property taxes and all that stuff. and to not have to worry that every penny that I had was invested in a building that could burn to the ground. During the fires in January of 2025, when so many people in Los Angeles, in the Palisades and Altadena lost their homes, lost everything, I started thinking to myself, maybe real estate isn't the best investment for me. It made me feel really vulnerable in a way that renting does not make me feel. It's a better choice for me and my kids and our resources. And so I got us packed and I got us moved, and now we're here, and the kids started school and we have furniture and we're figuring out the new neighborhood and the new schedule. And I was finally ready to turn my attention back to you, my amazing and devoted listeners who are probably very surprised, if you noticed at all, to see this episode pop up in your podcast feed. And here's what I'll say, and thank you to Glennon Doyle for this notion. We can do hard things. This was a hard thing. This was the thing I thought, oh God, please don't make me do this. It's too hard. By myself, I'm a single mom. It's too hard. The kids aren't going to be able to handle it. They're going to be heartbroken. We're losing our home. No. This was just another change. And if I know anything about you, dear listener, I know that you have gone through a lot of change in your life. If you have made it to your 40s or 50s or 60s and you are a woman in the world, you have navigated change constantly. And yes, men navigate change too, but I'm talking to you. It's just another change. It's another step in my journey and my family's journey. It's another evolution of me living the life that I am choosing and not the life that was prescribed for me. And I am so grateful. I am so grateful for the luck that I had that I could own a home in the first place and that I could sell it when I needed to sell it. I am so grateful for the grace that the universe bestowed upon me during this transition. I have landed somewhere lovely and wonderful. I have the space I need. It has good vibes. If you're watching this video, you can see it looks pretty cool. It's closer to my kids' school. And what I was able to say to them about the move, because they were emotional about it, was when we are together, the three of us, that is home. That is home. Home is anywhere we are when we are together. And the fires in January of last year really taught me that. When I took my kids out of town and we were staying at a friend's place for a week and we were making the most of it, that became our home. Because it was us together figuring out how to do life. And what a huge reorientation away from the materialism that is expected of us, right? Not that I'm not materialistic. Look, I'm a fancy lady. I like my stuff. However, it is a step away from materialism as the fundamental principle that defines what success looks like in life. You know, the intimacy and the closeness that I'm able to experience with my kids outside the shadow of a difficult marriage and an over-demanding career and my own workaholism, that closeness is my home. And the meaningful work that I do is my home. And the community of incredible people in my life, that is my home. My family, my relationships, the work I choose to do, that is my home. And for the last couple of years, hotter than ever, has been my home. And I hope it's been some kind of a home for you too. So that's where I've been. And I've also been in the early stages of starting a new business, which I'll be telling you all about. That business will be launching in January of 2026. And I will be going on a long hiatus from Hotter Than Ever at that point. I feel this chapter coming to a close, and I want to go out with a bang. And so I have a whole bunch of episodes in the can that I'm going to share with you on a weekly basis throughout the rest of this year. And there will be insights, there will be revelations, there will be powerful things to share along the way. What I will say is that I am so excited to be going into another phase of my life over 40, another phase of my career. Moving marks a big change for me, a big new chapter. And honestly, I'm in a new chapter when it comes to love and sex and relationships as well. As you know, I've been, over the past several years, having a ton of amazing sexual exploration and romantic exploration and doing things differently than I've ever done it before in love and relationship, having lovers, exploring the ideas of ethical non-monogamy and polyamory here on the podcast with you, whatever you want to call it, when someone has more than one lover and isn't lying to them about it. As you know, that's been my MO for the last couple of years, except for during that year when I was in love with the Marine. And I have really, really loved dating that way. It's been right for me. And I had lots of adventures this spring. I went on a run of guys in their 30s. That was very hot and exciting and fun. But none of them amounted to anything. There's no one who made sense for me and no one who wanted to stick around or who I wanted to have stick around, except for the one consistent lover that I've had for the past year, who I adore and who is still in my life, but who is not available due to his life circumstances to be my boyfriend. He's single, but he has a lot to figure out about where he's going, and that's okay. Things are what they are. Even if you fantasize they could be otherwise, and sometimes I do, but a lot of the times I don't. A lot of the times I just like what it is that I have with this lover, and at the same time, I'm reassessing what it is that I now want in terms of my relationship life. And watch this incredible segue that I'm about to do. That's where my guest today comes in. My guest today is Ally Iseman, and this conversation with her is right on time. Ally is a writer, a TV host, an NCSF registered kink-aware professional relationship coach certified by the Consent Academy. Did you know there was any such thing as the Consent Academy? I did not. I love it. She is a founder of the educational platform Passport to Pleasure, which we talk about today. Ally has been a speaker, a community organizer, a non-monogamy educator. Yeah, and we're going to talk about non-monogamy again on the Hotter Than Ever podcast because I am still so intrigued by this way of thinking about romantic love and relationships that requires so much communication and relating, like maybe more than I could ever do. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around whether this is something for me. And I wonder if you'll have the same reaction. Ally's been an educator and practitioner in the space since 2016, so she is not a newcomer. She has not recently jumped on the trendy bandwagon of polyamory. This is something that's really deeply part of her life, and we're going to dig into some different angles on it. Ally's also a featured subject matter expert for the New York Times, Cosmo, Romper, and others, and she's a contributing writer for Sexual Health magazine. Ally is super smart and really, really interesting to talk to. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I think you will too. All right, let's get hot. Ally Iseman, welcome to Hotter Than Ever.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. I love that you have been in this space for as long as you have. I think it's interesting as Gen X women start to age and the millennials start to enter their 40s. We're hearing a lot of rumblings from the world of monogamy, married conventional coupledom, that it's not necessarily working how people thought it was going to work. And I would love to hear your story because you've obviously been on a journey from serial monogamy, which is our conventional way of doing relationships here in these United States, to non-monogamy and sort of opening up your life in a very different way. And I would love to hear about how that journey happened.
Thank you. Yeah, and I want to start by saying too really clearly this may be a slightly different perspective than maybe the conversations you've had before, but I have the relationship conversation from a perspective of compulsory and non-compulsory versus monogamy versus non-monogamy. Because
Explain
monogamy,
that.
yeah, so monogamy does work for some people, but when we have a one size fits all relationship that's quite literally prescribed to us as the only model of acceptable relationship,
Right. I mean, who
that's the
who,
problem.
who among the listeners grew up thinking there was any other option?
Oh, no. No, no, I was
Marriage,
a Disney kid, like the whole thing.
monogamy, divorce, infidelity, like cheating. These are the rules of the game when it comes to
Mhm.
relationships. And I don't think we learn until we start to explore on our own that there are any other options.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, look, I'm a bougie bitch. I want a designer relationship. I want it customized to fit. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean when I say compulsory versus intentional, or, you'll hear the terms consensual non-monogamy, ethical non-monogamy, but to me, it's about
Right.
just intentional relationship design, relating on purpose, whatever the structure is. So to your original question, how did I
Yeah.
get here?
Yeah.
And where the hell am I going? Because it ain't over. Like the journey is not like, oh, I'm done. It is an ongoing. Relating is a journey. It is how you relate is how you relate in your life. So for me, this exploration of, expansive relationship dynamics, as I call them, consensual non-monogamy, that started for me back. Well, I guess the first step was before 2016, which is when my last, what became my last monogamous relationship came to an end. But prior to that, yeah, to use your terminology, I was a serial monogamist. I was a
Hmm.
compulsory serial monogamist. I was only dating men at the time. I was still very closeted. I identify as bisexual or demisexual. And I would be in a relationship with that one man for about the same amount of time. And
Hmm.
then we'd split up, and then I'd be single for about the same amount of time. And then bam, right into the next one, and on and on and on. And so my first key was like, I'm a nerd again, like there's a pattern here. How can I do a pattern interrupt and see what's on the other side? So I was like, all right, let me try and be single for longer than what I'm normally single as. Let's see what's on the other side of that. And the answer is all of the shit. So I got to start doing all of the personal reflection and why am I in these patterns and who do I want to be and how do I want to connect and what is intimacy and all that fun stuff.
So
And
that
then,
that took you just sort of going, wait, I've been doing relationships this way
yeah.
where I have a monogamous relationship, then we break up, and it's usually how long in between?
So the relationships averaged about 2 years, and I was generally single for about 6 months max,
Yeah. So
four
then
to
you would
six
just
months.
be seeking the next thing and go
Mhm.
back into the next thing without a
Yeah,
period of like,
no
huh,
reflection. Yeah,
why didn't that work? Why?
yeah.
And
Well,
then,
obviously, it didn't work because he was broken. Like, no.
right,
Yeah, it
because
was always
men are
them,
wrong,
right?
bad, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Couldn't be
yeah.
you.
So
Right.
yeah, you had that reflection, and that's why I like to say that was the beginning, because that was the beginning of me starting to understand intentional relationship.
Mm.
And then that opened up into, okay, I had a few more monogamous relationships and I broached, hey, like I'm exploring this part of my sexuality. Are you open to a threesome, with another woman was kind of the gateway to that conversation.
And
The
every man is
softer
like,
landing.
yes.
Yes.
Wait,
Ironically,
you're the
never
girl of my
happened.
dreams.
You would think. But never manifested, though we did, I had two relationships, to my recollection, that did say that was okay with them. Did not manifest. And then I got into what became my last monogamous relationship. And that was when I started really getting more curious about playing with others in different contexts. And like, can we invite, not having it be so specifically gendered, just an otherness that I wanted to bring into the space with us. And there was just something the word is compersion that you'll hear now.
Yeah.
So
Let's
I'll just
talk
give a
about
quick,
that.
yeah. So compersion is commonly referred to as like the opposite of jealousy. It's when it's the joy or pleasure that you feel from, your partner experiencing joy or pleasure with someone else. And it can be your partner, it can be your friend, it can be family member. It's the joy and pleasure you experience from someone you care about experiencing joy or pleasure somewhere
So it's
else.
not necessarily sexual. It's not
Doesn't
exclusively
have to.
sexual.
Certainly not
But
exclusive.
in this context, when you talk about non-monogamy or
Yeah.
polyamory, whatever language suits your situation, it's about saying, oh my God, this makes my partner so happy. Look how lit up, turned on,
Yes.
joyful. pleasure filled. This is the person I love the most. Maybe this is my primary person, my main person, and
Mhm.
seeing them happy is regardless of whether they are having a sexual relationship with someone else, or they love chocolate cake and you don't like chocolate. Like, you're so happy for them that they get
Blasphemy.
to have what you're happy for them that they get to have what they want.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the way
It's such a radical concept.
is
So
it?
yes, because I think in the sexual context, I
In
think
the in
it's
the like sexual
radical.
partnership kind of.
Yes, I
Yeah,
think so,
I hear that.
because we are so steeped in this notion of, and I do want to talk about infidelity and cheating and non-monogamy and how all that kind of plays together, but we are so steeped in this rule-bound approach to, there are rules, you can't break them. If my partner is with someone else, that's bad and wrong, and they've broken some sort of sacred contract. Um, and your assertion is that's not necessarily true. You can set it up to work however
Yeah.
you want it to work.
Again, it's that intentional setup. It's like, what
Hmm.
are we actually building together? Have we agreed upon what this what is cheating? How do you define cheating? Where are the boundaries on that? You
I
might
mean,
define cheating as an emotional connection with somebody outside of the relationship that's more than just platonic. Your partner might say you're not cheating until it's a blowjob. Like,
well,
you
some
really
people
have to get
think of
specific.
porn as cheating.
Exactly. So getting really clear on those, what I call creating a shared language, like really getting clear on the definitions of these words. Because what I see a lot of times with couples is something I call compound meanings, where there's sort of a merging of a bunch of different terms into one
Mm,
idea. So the biggest one is love, sex, and commitment. Those are not synonyms. Those are ingredients that you
mm,
get to include in your relationships if you so choose.
mm.
They are not, they can be related, but they are not the same thing. They can be connected, but not inherently so. So to your point, just saying, oh gosh, I want to make sure I hit, you said so many beautiful things. Oh yes. I want to make sure we really look at, you said the word rules, which is something that definitely comes up a lot. And there's three words I like to touch on in this conversation:
Yeah.
rules, boundaries, and agreements. So a boundary is about me and what I'm going to do if other people do X, Y, Z.
Ah.
A rule is you're going to do this because I tell you. A rule is about somebody else and their behavior. And an agreement is where two or more people come together and create shared boundaries for the relationship that they have together. So a rule is a controlling behavior, which sometimes rules are necessary. Like, I'm an educator, I'm a coach. There are rules in the containers that I create. In order to participate, it looks like this. And that's, something that's necessary when you're dealing with, an environment like that, a container like that. But in our relationship is really just an agreement.
Right.
The difference that I really like to drive home is, and this can be very unsettling to hear for some people, so just ride with me for a second. The difference between a boundary and a rule is I get to decide what kind of partners I want to be with. Do I want to be with a partner who is also seeing other people or not?
Hmm.
That's what I get to decide. I don't get to decide if my partner sees other people or not.
Right.
We create an agreement in our relationship mutually based in that. But I can create my boundaries that say, I'm only interested in dating people who XYZ. If you this, then I that. That's a boundary. Not you do this, you don't do that.
Why is it so muddy and unclear in real life? Because this is a great theoretical
Because
conversation, but
it's just
like,
skill set. It's a
if
skill set
you're
we're not taught.
crazy about someone, like, I don't know, my instinct is that so many women, when they're crazy about someone, like, the last thing they want to do is have conversations about, like, all of these structures. It's just like, I mean,
It's so
I
much
always get
work.
scared it's going to break it.
Yeah.
If you say the
Isn't that
thing, it's going to
interesting?
break it. Yeah.
Isn't that
Like
interesting?
it's a
If we
spell or something.
what feels I'm fascinated by what feels more secure to somebody.
Mm,
The knowledge that the thing that you're involved in is being actively chosen by everyone involved, or that it's barely held together because we're just not talking about, we have to whisper because if we speak too loudly, it might blow over. Which one feels more secure?
I don't know. I don't want to extrapolate from my own experience because I think a lot of people have had healthier relationships than I've had. And
Well,
a
and I
lot
think,
of people
look,
are trained differently about
yeah.
how to be in relationship.
Oh, but well, I love that you said that because exactly, we are trained. Now we're either trained by our previous experiences that we haven't looked at or haven't fully explored. We're trained by society. We're trained by our parents. We're trained.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways we're trained. This is what I'm talking about, is when we take the training into our own hands and we go, no, I want to rewrite this. I want to claim this. I want to be the author of my life, the author of my relationships. And yeah, it takes work because you don't learn to swim generally by just diving into the Pacific Ocean. You have to take some lessons. Like there is a practice involved in developing new skills, whether it's meditation, knitting, or relationship. But we're not taught that romantic relationships or intimate
Right.
relationships are a
Right.
skill set, because people will spend thousands of dollars on like how to communicate best in the boardroom and da 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 da.
Totally.
Why is that a skill set? But then relating with your heart is somehow not, with the most sensitive part of you that deserves the most amount of attention and protection and gentleness. That's not a skill set.
No, I think it is. I just think like I might have that skill set, but where are the potential partners who also have that skill set?
Well, the more we talk about it, the more we
Hmm.
normalize this as a conversation that happens, as a standard that's set, the more and more opportunities and the more and more people who are in this conversation will present themselves.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true. It's also about like where are you looking for your
Yeah.
people?
Yeah,
Um,
I was on a call the other day. A colleague of mine is looking at sort of for lack of better terminology, rebranding their practice to be
mhm.
a little bit more authentic. And they're a practicing Wicca, so witchcraft, witch. And they're like, I'm
Which
scared to.
also may not land casually on our listeners' ears.
Yeah, I am not. I
Hmm.
have no judgment. This is a wonderful practice that has brought them a lot of peace and power in their life. So I'm delighted by that.
Great.
But the point is, they had said, I'm afraid to say that, like if I say I'm a witch, or these rituals that I bring to my clients are rituals, I'm afraid that I'm going to lose a lot of people. And I said to them, if you don't tell people you're a witch, the people that are looking for a witch aren't going to be able to find you.
Facts.
So if you're not
Facts.
having this conversation and looking at this stuff, yeah, it's going to be a lot harder to find partner candidates and even friendship candidates who are in
Hmm.
this conversation.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. I just have these conversations with so many women, and then
Mm,
I go out in my life and have very different looking relationships with men.
mm. That's
And,
interesting.
because my sourcing or my picker or whatever doesn't necessarily lend itself to picking guys who can have these conversations.
That's interesting. That you have that awareness about it is so juicy, though. Like honestly, that's the hardest step. Even just knowing, just
Yeah.
being aware, going, "Oh, look at that," and
Yeah.
not having judgment about it. It just is. It just
Yeah.
is. Okay, if you want it to be different, you can. If you don't, that's also fine. It just is.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And I think like this period of our lives, for which for a lot of women is about reinvention and sort of digging down into like, who am I
Mhm.
really? Like, I know the roles I've had to fulfill for the last 20 years because I wanted X, Y, and Z, promises of my youth or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted the career and the family and the kids and the partner and the this and the that and whatever they wanted. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to do whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And now I think a lot of women are going, like, let me look at what it is that I really want. Let me look at my
Yeah.
patterns. And what I love about what you're doing is that you're saying, actually, it's really possible to have these conversations, to intentionally create the kind of relationship that you're looking for, whether it's monogamous or non monogamous, but like
Yeah.
everything's on the table.
Yeah. Imagine intentional monogamy. Oof. Mm. You're there on purpose. Your partner is there on purpose.
It's super
Not because
hot.
you were told to be, not because you have to be, because
Yeah.
you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
That,
I think that's gorgeous. I
yeah.
mean,
When I love what you said too about sort of just like the timing of this, as I entered my 40s, it was like I thought I was impervious. I think we all do it. Like, oh no, no. Like that like reckoning, like, no, thank you. I opt out. Like, but there's a weird thing about, markers that we have, again, talking about like how we're trained, right? In society, about age, about relationship, about all of it, about our relationship with our bodies, about with ourselves, right? I 100% got hit with it of like, wait, it's supposed to look like this. And here I am 10 years in to a journey that I has filled my life with so much pleasure and fulfillment. And I'm going, oh God, but it's supposed to look like this. What does that mean?
What was it supposed to look like
Well,
in your mind?
I should have the, let's see, where was it? You have, I still deal with mononormative programming. I'm supposed to have the one partner, they live with me. We share things. Like I've never wanted kids. That's just never been something in me at all, ever. There's so many other things I'm more interested in. So that's never really been a part of the visual, but it doesn't mean I don't get hit with that feeling of like, but am I supposed to? Like it's just that feeling.
Sure.
We should have a house and it looks like this, and I should be making this much money, and he should be making this much money, and it's a he. Of course, it's a he, and just like all of those layers. And when I sit with that visual, there's elements of what certain symbols within that mean that I still resonate with, but not the way it presents in that sort of prescription.
Totally. Totally. And then also, coming from my side where I got all the things, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I had the long marriage and I have the twins and I bought a beautiful house and I had a big fancy career and I was fucking miserable inside all of it. Miserable inside all of it. And what it looked like on the outside was not what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm still going, what else do I need to shed?
Yeah.
Where else am I blocked that is
Do,
barring my complete reinvention? Because I
do
feel
you
like
know
there's
what?
stoppers there.
Oh, you feel like you actually feel like a
Oh,
deadlock or
yeah,
something.
there's some stuff that's blocked up and I don't,
Mm,
and so I'm trying different ways to get through it, to push through it, to write through it, to whatever, therapy through it.
yeah.
But, it might take ayahuasca is really it's really
The
what
only
I'm
way.
fucking concluding.
Look,
Which
it's all pathways to the same destination. So whatever gets you there with grace and ease, I'm here
Mhm,
for it.
mhm.
Although
Yeah,
ayahuasca isn't known for its grace and ease.
I know. I just imagine there'll be a lot of wolves, and I don't really want wolves.
I've always loved, God, I need to do more research because I don't know if it's a specific tribe that this comes from, but there's a native allegory, I think is the word, of the two wolves inside us. Have you heard this?
No.
Oh, this is one of my favorite things. So we all have, the idea is that we all have these two wolves inside of us, a light wolf and a dark wolf, and they're always fighting. And the one that wins is the one that we feed more. So whichever one you're paying more attention to, feeding, petting, interacting with, that's the one that's going to win. But they're always there and they're always fighting each other. So which one are you feeding?
Yeah, and on some days you can't help but feed the dark one.
Yeah.
On some days you can't. And
Some days that's
on
okay.
some days I can imagine an intentionally created love relationship where we
Yeah.
establish agreements together. And on some days I think I'm just going to take these kind of looser tie loverships that are ill-defined
Mm,
and escapist, you know,
okay.
like
Yeah.
that's where I'm at is I have a couple of
Yeah.
those in my life currently and they're real fun. It's real fun. And
Fun is okay too.
outside the scope of our hang time together, there's not much going on. Right.
Yeah.
So, but, I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and I'm starting to feel like, oh, it's leaving me a little lonely.
Hmm.
That's leaving me a little lonely. So,
Okay.
what is the relationship ideal, or what is the scenario that I can imagine myself into that is not necessarily the sort of, serial monogamy, heteronormative, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, what is the version of it that I want to craft for myself with the right person? And the notion of compersion is a really interesting idea to me, where it's like, of course, you want the person that you care about to have pleasure and joy
Mhm.
but we are in a culture that is really obsessed with jealousy,
Mhm.
cheating, ownership in a partner relationship, revenge. Yeah, really, it's like a property model.
Yeah.
And I'd love to
Well, of
hear your
course it is.
perspective on that. Yeah.
Well, of course it's a property model because it quite literally was created as one.
Yeah.
Monogamy had to do with land ownership. It came in, I should say, monogamy as we know it, marriage as we know it, had entirely to do with land ownership and inheritance.
Mhm.
At the time that it was created, it was, women were the property of their husbands. The more you got a certain amount of acreage for having a wife, you had a certain amount of acreage per child that you had, et cetera,
From
et cetera, et
who?
cetera.
Who gave you the
Um,
acreage?
from I'm not going to use the right terminology, the county or whatever that you were in and contributing to and paying taxes and all that. This is about 5,000-10,000 years ago with the onset of like agriculture, basically, and really divvying up land in that way. And it had nothing to do with love or emotional connections or fulfillment at all.
Right.
And then the church kind of I want to say specifically the church, not a particular religion, the organization of the church
Mm-hmm.
came in and attached morality to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that
It's
kind of
so
got us,
effective. Yeah.
yeah, super effective. You're going to go to hell if you do anything else other than this one thing.
And
And
it's
so
really
that
worked
made it,
so well for them.
it
Yeah.
has. Fear is a deeply effective control tool.
Mm-hmm.
And education is a deeply effective fulfillment tool. And you can't control educated people very well. And educated people are harder to scare.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have monogamy and marriage as we know it. And it's even more recently been affixed to emotions like love and things like that. And even more so now, not only is it just that, but your partner is supposed to be literally everything that we used to expect from a village of people. They are now supposed to fulfill all that. My best friend, the most amazing lover, a great cook, a good partner in the home, a fantastic parent, a business coach. They're supposed to fulfill all of these roles. And a lot of them are in direct counter to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, I'm a very pragmatic person. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm not sitting here saying monogamy bad, non-monogamy good, intentional good, prescriptive not so much.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding relationships as a skill set, as an agreement structure that you create empowers you. And these skills extrapolate into every area of your life. How you relate is how you relate. Working on this in your intimate partnerships will impact your professional partnerships, your relationships with your family, everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you say that relationships are containers. So
Mm,
tell me what you mean by that.
yeah. My vision of the potentiality of relationship, it's a container for two or more people to grow. So we're changing. We're constantly changing. It becomes growth when it's mindful. So like choosing to learn from challenges, things like that. And that's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And uncomfortable is scary. And it's especially scary when it's with someone else because that makes it vulnerable. So
Yeah.
that's very uncomfortable. And if our relationship is not a container that feels safe to be uncomfortable in, we're unable to grow together or independently. So that's what I mean when I say container, because unsafe and uncomfortable are two different things. Your relationship is an agreement structure you've built with another person for whatever, goals you have together. That's the container you're creating together for the purposes of how you want to relate, how you want to live. If it's an unsafe container, maybe there's abuse, they've, violated trust, whatever it is, or you have,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't have that fertile ground from which to grow. I
Okay.
always see a little visual of like a mason jar. I don't know why, because I'm a
What do you mean?
crunchy hippie.
What do you mean you're getting a mason jar?
No, like the image when I say container, like relationship container, I don't know why the visual I always get is just like a very just classic mason jar with the metal.
Oh my God. Like we've been canning peaches type of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Oh my God. That's
Get out the
amazing.
relationship.
Vacuum seal it into this container. Oh my God. I love it.
Genie in a bottle. It's fine.
I love it. I love it. So I'm interested in talking about cheating and infidelity and this idea of non-monogamy and how those things sort of sit with each other because they seem to
Mm-hmm.
come from different universes of thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
isn't like in the culture that we are in today, like when you propose non-monogamy in your intimate, let's say you are creating the container with someone, what is the difference between cheating and non-monogamy?
Well, it is non-monogamy. It's just, is it consensual or not?
Hmm.
So that's what I mean. Again, it's that intentional thing. Are we agreeing to this thing? Are we doing it by choice or is it thrust upon us? Where there is coercion, there is not the possibility for consent.
Hmm.
So telling your partner, I'm going to see other people whether you like it or not, is not consensual non-monogamy. That's not an agreement structure you've created. It might be, hey, I'm really interested in trying this, and the other person isn't sure, and you're figuring that out together. And I would recommend very strongly getting some professional support in that
Yeah.
space, because that's a pivotal space to be in and a very exciting space, a very fertile space to create some really unshakable intimacy and deepening of your connection in your relationship as well. But it's uncomfortable, and that's okay.
It's uncomfortable. And you can cheat and be cheated on in a non monogamous relationship.
100% happens, still happens. It's not like you signed the consensual non-monogamy clause and it's like now it's impossible to. No, it's about forthright honesty, radical honesty, openness. It's
Hmm.
called open relating, right? Open relationship. I like to say you can have an open monogamous relationship or a closed non-monogamous relationship. How do you communicate with each other is what it comes down to.
Right. Right. I want to pivot to another part of your life, which is that you have organized play parties
Oh my
for a
goodness.
long time. And I'd love to hear from you what a play party is.
Yes.
And then I want to talk about why I'm so scared to go to one.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this. Oh, this is my favorite, one of my favorite conversations to have. Yes, I have been attending and hosting play parties, aka sex parties,
Is
since
that the same as an orgy?
2016. Sure. That can be a type of sex party, kind of like polyamory is a type of non-monogamy. An orgy is a type of play party. And I say not always AKA because sex party and play party, depending on the community, can actually have two different meanings. So play party can mean like more like a cuddle party in some communities, like not overt sex, but like touching and making out and like all that fun stuff. And then sex party is the events that are, all of the above is included. You're welcome to have any version of sex.
Okay.
If
And
that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, so like going in through the shallow end
Hmm.
of a cuddle party,
Yeah.
like, why would you go to a cuddle party?
Because we don't get touched much in our society these days. And it is actually physiologically a need for health and vibrancy as a human connective animal.
Hmm.
So that can really be what it is you know what? I want to be held. It feels really good to be held. You get chemical releases that are really important for your
Yeah.
neurology and your physiology. And it's wonderful. And you get to connect with other people who are heart-centered and open as well. And you get to kind of exactly to your point, dip your toe in. Like, what is it like to connect physically with people I don't know? How does that feel in my
What is
body?
it like?
I love it. Well, no, I mean, it has to be the right environment. I found so much grounding in this space. My first play party, which I actually attended solo, which I then learned after was like crazy town, like amazing.
Sounds like
So I
something I
think,
would do.
yeah, and you and I are very similar that way. I'm interested in something. I'm gonna do this thing. If you want to come
Yeah.
on, cool. But I'm doing this thing.
Right.
I'm gonna figure this out. Brought a bottle of wine. Let's go.
Hmm.
And it was great. I had an incredible experience. And most communities in this space are generally wonderful because it is called the sex positive space. So there's much more attention paid to communication. People involved in this space are generally much more interested in how they present to other people, how they communicate, how to be the best version of themselves, how to be a safe space for other people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a much higher level of value placed in like consent and communication than there is at, your average bar, club, what have you. So for me, I found a reflection of things within myself at my first party of things within myself that I had always been curious about, that I got to viscerally and physically just receive as, yes,
Like
this
what?
happens. This is good. This is okay. You are safe. You are healthy. What that meant to me is, let me just run you through my first party and what that looked like. And how I even found out about it was just so happenstance. Like I knew there were these events because, I'd seen Eyes Wide Shut. Don't get me started.
Oh my, the
Uh,
worst. That's
so
so
you
creepy.
can find that if that's what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I had gotten connected to this community, invited to an event. They had rented out like a, penthouse in this hotel. And I showed up with a bottle of wine because I'm classy like that. And I walked in, and it was being hosted by two play partners. So they were friends who also played together, had sex together, but weren't necessarily in a committed relationship with each other. It was a man and a woman. I got brought in by whoever was just sort of answering the door, and they found out that I was like, it's my first party. Here I am. Look how shiny I am. And they were like, oh, you have to meet our host. Da, da, da. And so when they found out it was my first party, they just took me under their wing. They're like, you come with us. We're going to introduce you to everybody. It was just the warmest, most wonderful invitation. The whole event felt like an invitation. And I'll never forget, he was dressed at this, I don't know if he had already, and I think he still had his jacket on and maybe his shirt, but not too long after, there was head to toe in tattoos, suspenders, bright red banana hammock. And a bow tie. How could I forget the bow tie? That's it. The most wonderful outfit. It's just, that
Oh my
expresses
God.
that human completely. And they just took me around, introduced me to everybody, had all these wonderful conversations. I had made the agreement with myself, no pressure. I don't have to do anything or not anything. Let's just see what's there, which I will say is the most important thing you can do before you go to an event, is understand your dibs, your desires, your intentions, and your boundaries. So I knew there was no pressure. I didn't need to do anything. I wasn't going to feel bad if I did or didn't. And as long as I was listening to what felt good in my body. And that just took the pressure off. I was like, I'm here to meet people. And I did. I met wonderful people, had great conversations. And then it was later on in the evening, but still a lot earlier than I was expecting. And I'd kind of noticed it had cleared out a bit. And I hadn't really seen much action. I was like, oh, okay, I guess, maybe not every party is okay. And I was expressing this to one of the hosts, and she goes, oh, no, come with me. And she takes me around this corner that I hadn't even seen, down a hallway I didn't even see, into what I can only describe as the orgy room. And it was just like this big open room with like a gold couch, like wrapping around the whole edge of it. And it was just this sea of bodies just undulating. It was like a Renaissance painting. It was the most beautiful thing. I just like walked in the room. It was like, ah, like it's just, and my whole body just dropped into myself in a way that I had just never experienced before. And I was just like, I am home. You are safe. This is healthy. It is okay. There are other people like you. Yes. It was just like in everything in my body. And it opened me up in such a, like even the host was like, I'm sorry, you just have the most fill in the body part here. May I? And I was like, yes. It was everything I needed. I had the most shit eating grin on my face leaving that party, getting the Uber.
Was everyone naked?
In that room, yeah.
Was everyone hot and young?
2 questions. Same age? Not necessarily. It was pretty decent range. Events age range some will have a smaller age range and they'll state that. But I mean, I've been at parties with people from their 20s to their 60s. I don't want to say 70s because I'm not 100% sure, but 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Attractive is in the eye of the beholder. I generally find people attractive at most of the events that I go to. Whether or not they're my type is a separate conversation. I can appreciate attractive without necessarily being attracted, if that makes sense.
I can just picture like a certain kind of Burning Man.
That's the stereotype, right?
I know. I'm telling you what pops up in my head. Like
totally.
Super beautiful, bohemian, probably with family wealth, tech entrepreneurs, whatever. And I think about the woman that I was. I feel like I would be more comfortable in that environment now because I've been through this very sex positive transformation in the last couple of years. But I think about myself, 5 years ago in the body that I was in, which was heavier and out of shape, in the headspace that I was in, which was like, I'm a mom, I'm trying to climb the corporate ladder. Like, I'm trying to bridge the gap for myself between
Okay.
this feeling like something that's sort of for a particular brand of elite versus something that's available to anyone, regardless of, whether they're covered with tattoos or living in coastal liberal places.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that right in at the end there. Location does play a part, 100%. All the sort of stereotypes you just described are
Yeah.
going to be more prevalent generally in cities, metropolitan areas, affluent areas. That is by no means the only places these events are happening. These events are happening everywhere, to varying degrees of professionalism as well, and size, right? So think of play parties like pizza parties.
Like
What
anyone can have a
topping?
pizza party.
You
Yeah.
could 100. Oh my God, what? How have I not done it? No, you don't want dairy. You don't want dairy at a sex party. We learned that the hard way.
It's freaking
Oh my
hilarious.
goodness. Yeah, don't serve cheese at your play party
Oh my
if you
God.
take nothing else from this podcast. But no, think of it in the sense of toppings, right? Like not everyone likes the same pizza. Not everyone likes the same play parties.
Yeah.
There's different environments. I actually just released on my YouTube channel a breakdown of kind of like, what is this scene? What are these events? All the different kinds that are available. How do you even get into this space?
How do you find them? Like, say
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
in the Midwest somewhere and you're listening to this conversation and you're going, I think I'm ready for something like that.
Yeah.
That actually sounds really fun. And like, I can probably get over whatever my blocks are because I'm curious enough
Yeah.
to walk into that room and see if I have that same feeling that you had. How do people go about finding these events?
Well, I love that. First of all, curiosity is the antidote to fear, is what I like to say. So definitely be with that curiosity, and then take my workshop, Become a Play Party Pro, so you really are prepared. And then Google is your friend. Meet up, look for social events first. Your first event is not going to be a play party. I didn't go to a play party because I saw it listed, on Craigslist. Don't do that. If you do, you want to meet people the same way you would get invited to any party. You want to get invited to a party by someone you enjoy being around. Otherwise, you have a higher likelihood of enjoying that party is the best way to look at it. So look up poly meetups, ENM happy hours, like things like that have to do with this space, kink and BDSM munches, things like that. You're going to meet people in this space, and then just be open. Hey, I'm new here. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. I'm curious. I'm really curious to go to a play party. What are some great options for newbies? Like, where do I go? People are so friendly generally and accommodating, and will be so excited for you that you're stepping into this journey. They want to help. But you do have to take that first step and show up and actually participate in community in that way.
Right, right. Which I think our culture conspires to keep us isolated and separate and behind our screens. And the more we can push ourselves out into the world to have good old fashioned human face to face interactions and then maybe get petted a little bit.
Yeah.
Totally. That's the path to it. The path isn't
Yeah.
staying at home and being on your phone.
Yeah.
And I say that as a person who is home on her phone most of the time.
Yeah. I am,
Right.
we're all in it, right? I'm fighting that addiction constantly.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, it's a necessary tool to have. Like, my business is an online business.
Right.
So it's a necessary tool.
Right. So talk to me about Passport to Pleasure and what people will find if they go looking for your materials.
Yeah. So the way I describe Passport to Pleasure is it's an online platform. It's an inclusive relationship education platform where you learn the tools and the skills that you need to build the relationships that you want and deserve. So that can look like PDF tool downloads, workshops, courses. You can work with me. I work with a select number of clients at a time in private sessions. I do live workshops online as well. I am hosting events. I do love creating in-person events because, to your point, everything is so online now. And I do love that I can offer infotainment or edutainment, as I call it.
Yeah.
I love creating content. And I do lots of videos on YouTube. I write a ton on Substack. I want this stuff out there for people. And I put all of this online so it can reach as many people as possible, just like my courses and everything. But at the end of the day, it's about that connection. So I also want to make sure I am doing in-person retreats, that I'm throwing these parties, that I'm doing in-person workshops. I love doing that. So I also do that as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And those are resources that we'll put links to in the show notes. I think one thing that's interesting is that you have picked up and moved yourself across the world. And when we met, you said, I always wanted to live in Europe and I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it.
And then a week later, it was.
And then a week later, it was. I think it was already sort of a seed that had been planted. But tell me about that, because I think that's a fantasy that a lot of women have of like, I have deferred this dream of this big life adventure, or these big radical changes in geography, in lifestyle and circumstance. So, and I think it's not unrelated to the risk taking that you're willing to do in your personal life. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, and that's why my company is called Passport to Pleasure, because the average person gets very excited about travel and the adventure and what's around the corner, and the unknown, right, is very exciting in the context of travel. And then when we go on that inward journey, suddenly somehow that unknown becomes scary and we retract and we're not sure. I want people to have that same sense of adventure for the inner journey as they do for the outward adventure as well, because it's all an adventure. And so, to answer your question, I mean, it was about 20 years of talking myself out of a dream, because I studied here in university. I studied abroad in London, fell in love with the city. I've always loved traveling, and London in a lot of ways for Westerners is the gateway to Europe. And so I was like, to be based here, and it's just like a 2-hour flight anywhere I want to go in Europe, this is amazing. And then you just talked myself out of it in multiple ways over 2 decades.
Sure.
And I came back. I even dated a Brit for 2.5 years, and was like back. He was based in the US, but we were back and forth a lot. I loved it here. And I came back last October 2024 for some business meetings. And I was just like, yeah, it is still very present for me. I really love it here. I was very, quite frankly, sad to leave. But I also love my home in Los Angeles. Buying that home was a huge symbol. I was very conflicted. And then the city burned for a month. And I had to evacuate for a week. And I have respiratory complications from long COVID. And the air is going to be problematic at best for me for a few years while cleanup and stuff happens. So I'm like, all right, well, I can't be here. I have my house. Thank God it's still standing. I'm going to go to Europe. I have a new lovership I'm excited to explore here. Otherwise, I'd be somewhere a lot warmer. And let's do it. I can change my mind. I can change my mind at any time and go back. And I'm getting to know myself again in a new way in this new decade of my life. And it's uncomfortable and it's messy. And I'm falling in love with myself. And I'm going to get emotional.
Aww.
I'm terrified and excited and falling in love with myself in new ways every day, is what it feels like.
Oh, it sounds like you're alive.
Yeah, I think that's what that is. Nasty habit.
Yeah. I mean, it's uncomfortable and gorgeous and never the same.
Yeah. I mean, it was the biggest, fastest, least planned out decision I've ever made in my life. It was less than 2 weeks from conception to execution. It's just wild. 18 years of life.
Sometimes it happens that way, though. When we moved from New York to Los Angeles, it was 2 months with 2 little kids.
Yeah. Wow.
And we were like, the second we made the decision, I just wanted it to feel like I was going down a water slide.
Yeah. Oh my God. Perfect. I think like kid years are like dog years. Like 2 months is like 2 weeks. Like 2 months for you is totally 2 weeks.
Totally. Yeah. And Malcolm Gladwell says, like, you can spend a month studying the decision, or you can make a gut decision, and they're equally effective when it comes to results.
Yes. I love that quote.
Don't have to labor things necessarily.
No.
This has been such an awesome conversation, Ally. I want to ask you one final thing. Hotter Than Ever is all about giving women permission and ideas for how to do things differently in the second half of our lives. And so, what do you want the listeners to take away about what is possible for them in their intimate and relationship lives over 40?
When you have an intimate and fulfilling partnership with yourself, no matter how many or how few partners you have, you can create equally fulfilling relationships with others. There is no one size fits all. All you've got is Hope Couture, baby. So what you gonna put on?
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Ally. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Hotter Than Ever. I hope you enjoyed this conversation about love and relationships with Ally Iseman and thinking about how we connect romantically in the second half of our lives when we no longer need to mate and breed and meet each other's parents and have a relationship with them for the rest of our lives. Is there someone in your life who needs to hear this conversation? Please share it with them right from the podcast app that you are listening to this very episode on. It is probably in your hand or on your table or in your pocket. It's so easy to just pick it up, boop, share the episode with your friends and loved ones. Thank you. Hotter Than Ever is produced by Erica Gerard and Podkit Productions. Our associate producer is Melody Carey. Music is by Chris Keating with vocals by Isa Fernandez. I missed you. It's really good to be back. I will talk to you next week.